Good morning. I just wanted to make a quick tutorial. I meant to do this on Monday. Monday was a little kind of a crazy day, but I still meant to do this Monday. I wanted to walk you through our, if you as a student here, I wanted to walk you through this essay and this essay prompt, right? So I'm going to share our Brightspace screen. Is that oh 07? No, that's oh 01. All right, I want to share our Brightspace screen, and talk about this narrative essay. All right. So it says we want an assignment that asks you to use writing as a way to preserve and examine a specific personal memory. So we want to be specific here. Rather than telling a broad life story, this essay focuses on one concrete moment, an experience that matters because how it was lived, not because of how it might appear to others. So this goes with that idea of, not being that it's not for sale. Right. Like no one would have, if you post it or if you go to tell everybody about this experience, then it cheapens the experience. It takes away from the experience instead of adds to it. We kind of live in a culture of oversharing, even if that's verbally, and I'm just as bad. So again, we want to write about just a specific memory. So start by closely reading the narrative essay prompt. To support this process, we then discuss. So we'll start and then we discuss your gift of voice. We did that. So remember to go back to that gift of voice, read that again. There's also a process for writing, pages 1 through 5. It introduces strategies for developing ideas. Before drafting, you'll practice pre-writing techniques, help you move from memory to meaning, including narrowing your focus, selecting specific details, identifying the moment you chose to write about. So it details all of that. That chapter 1 details how to begin with listing and brainstorming, and I'll find a video with that too here in just a moment. Listing and brainstorming and things like that. I'm actually going to move over to oh 01 also or oh 07 to see if they have that. But right now, I just kind of wanted to go to our Okay, I have a video here, a pre-writing techniques video tutorial, so I'll go over there in just a moment. So right now, I just kind of wanted to go over this prompt. So you can find it here, but you can also find it in assignment prompts. So there's two places to find that. So here's your prompt. In a culture shaped by social media, personal experiences are often edited and shared for approval, like a product in a commercial. Moments that were once private can become performances. This is, of course, leading us to our advertisement argument, which is an essay that we write later on. For this assignment, you'll write a 3-page narrative essay that focuses on one specific memory that contributed to the formation of your identity. This is not a life overview or a collection of experiences. Your essay must remain centered on a single, clearly defined moment, right? So you look at this a moment when a parent or sibling or caregiver that reshaped your understanding of responsibility or care, an experience in which you had to assume an adult role within your household, a defining moment at a camp, a school, um, practice or work. So maybe it was, let me put my phone on vibrate. Maybe it's something that happened at a camp, or maybe it's something that happened during a game or performance. So this essay should rely on concrete details and focused reflection. Dialogue is not permitted in this assignment. That doesn't meet the genre conventions of a narrative essay. That's more creative writing. So let's not have dialogue is where people talk. We don't want to have, and then she said, and then I said, and then they said. We don't want any of that. Instead, emphasize physical actions, internal responses, emotional or ethical weight of the moment. By the conclusion, your reader should clearly understand how the specific memory shaped your identity. All right, so I want it to be about 3 pages, which is about 1,000 words. I usually like to watch this little clip from Inside Out, but anyway, so this is not an essay where students detail how they enjoyed their vacation or were sad when their pet died, which I have had students write about when their pet died or their vacation ended and they had to come home and they were sad. That's not a defining moment. That's not a moment you'll remember a year later, 2 years later, when you grow up. You won't remember, oh, I was sad when I had to leave Branson, right? That's not a defining moment. Students are to write about a very short time frame, like a day in their life. All right, so here's some helpful information. This is really important down here. I know we're going to be talking about our mothers and our fathers and when we were children, but we do not want to use words like mom, dad, papa, Gigi. That's slang. That is not academic diction. We want to have academic diction. So we want to say mother and father when I was a child, my grandmother. No contractions. By about the second yeah, because we have three and then we go into a presentation. So by the second essay, if we're still using contractions or slang or second person, I will give you a grade of 1 at 1 point, and then you have to fix that. So I comment on your first essay if you have contractions, if you have second person, and if you have slang, these typical essay issues that we really didn't have to deal with 20 years ago that we're seeing a lot more now. By the second essay, if we still have those, I give your essay a grade of 1, and you have to go back and fix that before I give you your grade. So let's make sure we don't do that. Let's make sure we have academic diction. Let's make sure that we avoid only summary. Sometimes students will write just the story. Um, and they don't have any points. They don't have any support, which leads me to here. All right. So this next page is meant to help you as a student. We want to begin broadly, narrow to a thesis statement. Some students like to begin with that hook. I really don't teach the hook very much, but if you learned that in high school and whatnot, then you can begin with the hook. Again, I don't usually teach that. Oh, hold on. That was not the phone call that I was waiting on, waiting to hear about our house. All right, so for an essay, again, we want to have at least we want our body paragraphs to at least have we don't necessarily have to have a this topic sentence or this point that reflects back to. I mean, you can, there's still some students who do incredibly well on their essays when their body paragraphs stay on a theme and then they move to a different theme and then they have a third theme. But you can talk about how this experience taught me resilience. This experience taught me this part about my identity. This experience taught me another part about my identity. So you can begin your body paragraphs with a topic sentence and then support those with your story. We just want to make sure that we introduce our story, give some background knowledge here, and then we have a thesis statement, what we learned about ourselves in that story. And it is pretty easy to begin with the point and then support that point, right? So the last thing that we want is what will kind of kill your grade here is whenever we have a story of our entire senior year of high school or our entire vacation or whenever we have this incredibly long, if you want to tell me about you and your best friend, that's great. Tell me about you and your best friend, but do it in a specific story. You can give me a little bit of a background in the introduction, but our story needs to be very specific. We don't want to be, when we were in kindergarten, we used to hang out, and then by the third grade, we were playing on the playground, but then by high school, she wasn't talking to me anymore. That's way too broad. That doesn't really narrow down to what you learned about yourself. All right, here's some questions and notes. You can print that off. And here's the rubric, how I grade this essay. All right, so let me know if you have any questions. The main thing I would say is be very specific with your story. Have a specific story that happened in a day or two, and then avoid contractions, avoid slang, and avoid that second person you. All right? And then you'll do really well if you're very specific and your diction is good. So if you're specific and your diction is good and your story flows from one idea to the next, you will do really well. All right, in a minute, I'll post what we need in the lab and what we need in this essay, just like students like that in the announcements when I say, here's what you need in the lab and here's what you need in the comp class. Take care. Let me know if